Okay, this is day one, and we've come to our first stop. We left Walvis Bay about an hour ago. We drove by Henties Bay, Henties. This is the Atlantic Ocean. So we're driving north from Walvis Bay along the Atlantic Ocean, and I'll give you the requisite 360. This is what we've been looking at. We're in the desert. We're in the middle of nowhere. There was a pipeline that we were driving alongside, and of course after driving alongside the Alaska pipeline, I was thinking, is that oil? But it's water. So they have a big desalinization plant that we drove by because they don't have a water source. So they're obviously converting ocean water into water. We did drive by a couple of towns, I would call them. They're not towns like that you're used to seeing, but anyway, they call this the Skeleton Coast. Now, I don't know that if we're actually at the Skeleton Coast right now proper, but I think it's called the Skeleton Coast because of that. Apparently there are a lot of shipwrecks that happen along this coast for some reason, which I think they're going to tell us at some point. But anyway, this is the start of the journey, day one, and we're going to drive 240 miles, 400 kilometers today to a tent camp. Okay, just got a little more info. So this is not the Skeleton Coast proper. There apparently is a boat north of here, the Dundon Star, something like that I think we're going to see later, that gave name to this as the Skeleton Coast. And it's not the Skeleton Coast because of the ocean wants to come and visit because of the shipwrecks, although there are quite a few shipwrecks along here, but rather because of whale carcasses and whatnot, and hopefully we'll see that at some point. This was a boat that was bought by some Indian company for scrap metal, and you see the birds on her and whatnot, and apparently they were going to haul this thing all the way to India, but as they were hauling, the cable broke and it got left here in 2008, they said. So anyhow, we're going to stop here and have lunch, and again, I'll give you the 360 real quick. There's what there is out here. It's dry and barren. Obviously it's not dry right there because that's the Atlantic Ocean, but anyway, really cool so far. Okay, so we've driven about another hour up the road, still along the Atlantic Ocean. So the Atlantic Ocean is right there in the distance, if you can see it. There's all the Grenadiers. We stopped here and you see this fence and you're like, why in the world do they have a fence way out here? Well, they have lichens, and these are, there's not many plants out here, but these are the lichen plants, and they actually do in some way help reduce erosion out here. And you can see right there, there's bigger lichens out there, and they don't want people driving around out here killing what little vegetation they have. By the way, I asked the question, what's the annual rainfall here? And it's between 2 and 12 millimeters a year. So let me see if I can do that calculation. 2.54 centimeters, so that's 25.4 centimeters or 25.4 millimeters is an inch. So that's what, a tenth of an inch maybe a year, a tenth of an inch to a half an inch a year. Okay, we're heading on. You see some mountains in the distance. We're moving light and fast right now. So we'll have another update later in the day. Okay, so we just left Dorob National Park, I guess. And we are stopping here at the entry to the Skeleton Coast National Park. So earlier I said that we were not at the Skeleton Coast proper, and that was true. Our guide said that the Skeleton Coast actually is the entire Atlantic coast of Namibia, but this is the Skeleton Coast proper, and we'll find out more about that in a moment. Anyway, I am going to give a review of the differences with the car at some point. One thing is this is a right-hand drive vehicle, so we're driving on the left side of the road because Namibia is just north of South Africa, and South Africa was a British colony at one point, blah, blah, blah. So they drive on the other side of the road, so to speak. But anyway, so here we are at the Skeleton Coast National Park, and we'll see what that's all about. Okay, this is not primarily a wildlife viewing trip, but that is a jackal that is going over that hill. If you can see it, we'll probably try to blow up the picture and see if you can see it. By the way, beautiful view of the sun, and the Atlantic Ocean is still right over there. So, okay, we're about 210 miles into our 240 miles for today. Again, we're really hitting the ground running. You saw the sun go down behind the clouds there. That is the Atlantic Ocean right below it. So we've been driving north, again, right along the Atlantic Ocean this entire day. This is kind of it's sandy here. I mean, you see that's sand. I just scraped my foot across there, but it's kind of black on top, so I'm not exactly sure what that's about. But anyway, give you a 360. There's the Grenadiers. If you can see, there's mountains in the distance. And by the way, there is this guy that's helping lead the expedition that's got this Ford truck, and I think he's carrying our water for us. So there's a big water tank on the back there. So anyway, we're about 30 miles from we're going to be tent camping tonight, I believe, and we'll see if we see the sun again or not. But it's been a lot of this kind of thing. We've got, again, inland. If you can't see underneath those clouds in the distance, there's mountains in the distance. I think we're headed that way starting tomorrow morning, I believe. We'll find out more about that tonight. It has gotten cool, so I didn't talk about the temperatures today, but it's about 70 right now, probably 75 or 80 earlier in the day, but the wind's blowing and it's quite cool right now. In fact, you can see right there, you can see guys have put their jackets on and whatnot because it's really cooled off. Anyway, that's our progress so far. By the way, we went by 3 different salt mines today, and that was interesting. And one of the downsides of a trip like this, different from when I drove across Alaska. When I drove across Alaska, I was by myself, so I could stop anytime I wanted to, could go anytime I wanted to. This is a group tour, and so we move when the group moves. Anyhow, alongside the road where these salt mines were, there were these tables set up with nobody out there and these salt displays. And that sounds crazy, but they had these big crystals of salt, and some of them looked like they had been, sculptured or whatever. So it was really neat, and I'd love to have gotten an up-close picture of them, but unfortunately that didn't happen because of this being a group tour. But anyway, we'll talk to you a little bit later in the day. Okay, we're back to the ocean again. This is a campground, but not the campground we're staying at. So we're airing down right now. When I get around my 360, You'll see these guys are airing down the tires on the vehicle. So we're going to drive down the beach, they said about 10 kilometers, so about 6 miles, to our campsite. This is Tora Bay is what they call it, and it really is. Tora Bay is nothing other than these water tanks up there with the birds on top and this building, and a lot of fishing. So we passed a lot of vehicles with big fishing poles. When I say a lot, probably 20 or 30 of them coming up here. And this was all before we entered the national park, this Skeleton Coast National Park, but we passed a bunch of vehicles that had fishing poles on, big fishing poles. They were rigged out, and so obviously a lot of people like doing sea fishing around here, ocean fishing. And so I think that's what this campground here is about, and potentially our campground also that we're headed to. Anyway, you can see that it is getting dark, so the sun, there you go, beautiful. Wow, look at that. You can't see the sun, but obviously you can see the rays coming above the clouds and whatnot. So beautiful sunset, even though we can't see the sun, and we'll be driving to camp hopefully in the next 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, so this is the end of day one. I know I didn't get to shoot a lot. This was a very rapid fire day. We left Johannesburg at 10:20 this morning on a flight to Walvis Bay, Namibia. It was a 2-hour flight. When we landed, we were met by the guys that are running this expedition. We signed some paperwork, had a introductory meeting, got in the cars, and within probably 45 minutes, we were gone. And we got here after dark, or I would have videoed more. Anyway, this is the tent where we had dinner and had our end of the day meeting and planning for the next day. There's a little campfire you see there, where people are sitting around shooting the bull and having a drink. The ocean, if you can hear it, the Atlantic Ocean is right there. I'm probably, I'm trying to shine my light to it, but I'm probably 150 feet away from that. And then these are, if you can see them, here, these are the tents we're staying in. Tent number 1 and the Grenadier that goes with it, tent number 2, and on and on. Hopefully you can see in the distance there, the moon up in the sky. Anyway, so we actually, and this is really nice, the tents are set up so that you can wire the heater for the shower to the Grenadier and run it off the battery of the Grenadier. And so we're gonna be able to take a shower in the morning. We got our own little porta potty, our own little tent. And so it's a very nice setup. Dinner tonight was fabulous. We had, for you small animal lovers, sorry, but we had springbok. We had local fish. We had potatoes, had not tiramisu, but chocolate mousse. Just a fabulous meal. Potato leek soup. Anyway, looking forward to tomorrow. I'm probably going to do, again, a review of the, there, if you can see it in the distance, is the moon. I'm going to see if I can get out of the way of these lights so we can get a little bit better view of it. But I'm going to try to do a review. I'm going to do a review of the Grenadier and some of the differences for the out of the USA versions. There again is the moon. I'm going to turn my headlamp off. If you can see it in the distance, it is absolutely gorgeous. Again, I don't know if that's showing up or not. Anyway, very fun day. Looking forward to the rest of the trip, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 2.